There have been 31 homicides in Peoria since January of 2018. That's about 2 per month. In April of this year, 3 people were killed, 2 by knives and 1 by gunshot. Others were also shot, but not fatally. So what's going on in Peoria? And could social media be to blame? From the Gatehouse Media Studios, I'm Dave Morris. Crime in Peoria is a story that Andy Kravitz from the Journal-Star is covering. Andy covers public safety and the military. He joins us now. How are you, Andy? Appreciate your time.
Hey, thanks.
You reported this week that the brutal pace of homicides continues.
Yeah, we have had 31 deaths in the past 16 months, and that's well above the average that we tend to have, which is between 12 and 14 per year. I want to make it clear that it's not a numbers game, that we're not trying to win or to beat a record. 1 is bad, and 1 is far too many. But it's nobody really knows why, because none of them appear to be linked, and there doesn't seem to be any rhyme or reason to what is taking place.
Yeah, Andy, I was going to ask you, I'm sure you've spoken with the authorities there. What are they thinking? Why are so many killings? And to your point, if none are connected, that's got to be baffling the authorities.
I don't think it's baffling them. I wouldn't use that term. I would say that they don't know. I mean, when you have a person go to a fight to, quote, watch it, and she gets stabbed when she's not part of it, how do you stop that? When you have a couple who have been together for years and they have a pattern of domestic violence against each other, and it just happens to go wrong, and very, very wrong, how do you stop that? When you have a man who earlier this year who was let out of prison, and he goes over to a house and kills the girl that he used to be dating because he doesn't want others to have her. How do you stop that? I mean, it's not anything that I don't know if they can. I don't know what they could do. It is wrong, and we have to work on it. And there have been a lot of families that are suffering right now.
For sure. We're chatting with Andy Kravitz. He's with the Journal-Star, talking about a story he had earlier this week. And in that story, Andy, you spoke with civic leaders, and you can share with us now perhaps some thoughts on society that they shared with you.
Yes, I talked to some people who were part of groups, and part of the area where some of these crimes are taking place is an older part of town, and there are people who bemoan how things aren't like they were 30, 40, 50 years back. And whereas one man said if a kid was acting out, he could go up to him and say, knock it off. Now he's saying you can't do that because the parents get upset. And it's a question that is hard to put into a quote, and it's hard to put into a story. But the question is, have we as a culture lost a bit of our compassion for others, and do we resort to violence right off the bat? And that's what I tried to ask, and unfortunately, nobody knows. I mean, it's interesting, but I don't know. I mean, it's just awful. And they are trying to do it. They are reaching out to the public. They've started a few social media campaigns. They're doing this ring by neighbor or neighbor by ring thing, where it's not just a camera on your doorbell, but it's also a social media thing. And they are trying, and they're meeting with the folks, and they're asking and pleading for help.
Sounds like a good idea. And speaking of social media, you wrote in your story that social media may have played a role in one of the 9 slayings this year from one that happened earlier in April.
Yeah, that was Shari Alexander. She was a 19-year-old woman who went to a park apparently to watch a fight that was advertised on social media, and she died. She was not part of the fight.
Man.
She was not one of the combatants. Somehow, though, she got stabbed in the neck.
Well,
And I mean, the question is, did social media play a role in that? I guess, in the sense that she showed up to the fight because she heard about it on social media, and that attracted most likely a larger crowd. Um, so, yeah, I mean, I guess, yeah. What we're finding is, I mean, I've been doing this for 20 years here, and I also cover the courts, and what we find is a lot of times someone will have a beef with someone. Beef is a term for a dispute, and they will post something on Facebook, and that will ratchet things up to where guns get involved, and that's more common than folks think.
well, Andy, I'll get you out of here on this question. Again, we're chatting with Andy Kravitz. He's with the Journal Star. Some of the authorities and officials you have spoken with have credited community support in solving some of these crimes.
Yeah, they after the after the fight in the park, and after the domestic earlier this month, though they're two of the three, they pretty much folks told them who they thought it was. We have an issue here because the city of Peoria is a lot like bigger cities. It's probably like Oklahoma, like OKC. It's like a lot of things where you have wealthy parts, you have poor parts, you have built up parts, you have slums, and what we're finding is that the people who talk to the cops, they are at risk because they got to go back and they've got to live next to, oftentimes, or within a few blocks of the people that were doing these crimes. So there's a lot of unsolved crime where privately the police will tell you, we know who did it, but we can't prove it because nobody will come up. So the fact that they've had two of the last three solved because of the community coming together is a very big deal.
He's Andy Kravitz. He covers public safety and the military for the Journal Star. You can follow him on Twitter. Does a great job there at Andy Kravitz. Also, more coverage can be found online at pjstar.com. Andy, thank you very much for your time today. Appreciate it.
I appreciate it. Thanks.